about 15 minutes total. Look, with all the terrible events that are happening over in the Middle East, in the Holy Land, I spoke to Rabbi Ari Rubin, who is a local man, head of Chabad, Great Barrier Reef. Now, his jurisdiction, parish is the wrong word, obviously, covers all of Queensland, north of Rockhampton. That's literally millions of square kilometres. That's he goes right up and has visited the Torres Straits and goes as far west as the Queensland border. That's got to be larger than pretty much all of continental Europe. Now he is just speaking about the effects of what's happening in Israel on the local Jewish community. So rather than me talk about it, here is Rabbi Ari discussing the terrible events in the Holy Land and how it's impacting on far north Queensland Jewish communities. Shalom, Ari.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Look, obviously with the terrible events happening in Israel, I just really want to first pass on the condolences of myself, and I don't think it's inappropriate for me to say pretty much all of the Cairns community for what's happening over there. But if I could get you to tell me how is these terrible events, how are they affecting the Jewish community here in Cairns and in far north Queensland? Get you to tell me what.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks again so much for having me. It really means a lot that you're reaching out to our community, and our community thanks the support that we've received. And we have received a lot of support from a lot of different places. Obviously, it's very scary what's happening in Israel. It's even more scary to see how it's reaching us on our shores here in Australia. I saw the protests outside the Opera House saying "Gas the Jews." That showed that it's not about Israel. That there are people that just hate Jews. That had nothing to do with Israel, and specifically at a time where there is nothing that you could blame Israel for. There was nothing that could ever have elicited such barbarism. Such a lack of humanity, and yet at the same time we are seeing a lot of outpouring of support from different places. I was definitely appreciative that the mayor sent me a letter of his condolences. I even had neighbors of mine that came over with notes saying their appreciation to us as well. So it's very meaningful to be able to have the support. The community are definitely going through a lot right now. I've got people coming out of the woodwork, people that I've never seen before. I had one lady that called me up and said she's been living in Cairns. She didn't even know that there were any other Jews that were living here. She thought she was the only Jew in Cairns. She's been living here in 10 years. She called me up. She says, "I want to be a Jew again." And that was incredibly meaningful, because in Judaism, you're always a Jew. It doesn't matter what you do. You're always a Jew, and you always will be a Jew. There's nothing can take that away from you. And so it was very, very meaningful when she came, and she wasn't an exception to the rule. This past Friday night, we had 100 people impromptu that came to us to just be with family, to just join with other Jewish people. There was no organized rally that they were coming to. There was no organized official service or anything. It was purely just people coming to just be with one another. And that was incredibly meaningful. That people are going through all the range of emotions. There's the grief, there's the sadness, there's despair. And it's really important that we all are able to come together to be there for them at this time.
Even some reprobate Catholics turned up, so I'm led to believe. But one of the
it was very special. Even my daughter's teacher from her school, a non-Jewish teacher from her school here in Cairns, came Friday night to join us for the meal, just because she wanted to show her support to us.
Shabbat Shalom. And look, I got to say, obviously, those protests that's not the right word, those despicable displays of barbarism that are happening, unfortunately, all over the Western world are truly a great shame. But to see the vast majority of the community backing you, it kind of reminds me, as you know, I was in the police at the time when the Christchurch massacre happened. And, the Muslims then were just terrified. They certainly appreciated the goodwill and the good messages, the goodwill messages that you personally sent them, and also that I passed on, because I remember, you asked me to pass that on, and I did that from the community. So, this community support matters. And, I really, just from a personal note, I will get a little bit personal here. Like, it's just, you and everybody else need to know that you're Australians. You're part of the community. You're part of our heritage. There were Jewish prisoners, incidentally, too, on the First Fleet. So, yeah. So, it kind of goes way back. Even then.
Yes, seven members of the First Fleet were Jewish.
Yeah. So, I like to think in the criminal stakes, we Irish, we outrate you guys. So, if you need something stolen, if you need something broken or something like that destroyed, come see an Irishman. But it's kind of nice to know that there are a couple of Jewish guys in there holding standing side by side, the guys like me.
Well, look, here in Cooktown and Cairns were Jewish graves in the pioneer cemeteries from the convicts as well.
That's right. It goes way, way, way back.
Australia has been incredible. We had 2 governor generals that were Australia. The current governor of Victoria is Jewish. Probably the most famous defense member in Australia was Sir John Monash.
Yeah. And Isaac.
Yep.
Isaac. Absolutely. No, John Monash was an absolutely, amazing man, and never hid his Judaism either. Like, he was kind of, it's like, yeah. And the real irony is like he was actually from German Jewish stock. Really, it's kind of like, so, you got this German Jewish guy who's moved to Australia, and it ends up fighting the Germans. Go figure. But to get back to the kind of like serious side of things, would you mind telling us about, because part of the beautiful ceremony that happened on Friday, that Shabbat meal that I had the privilege of being there for, was the Kaddish. Would you mind telling people what the Kaddish is?
So the Kaddish is a prayer that traditionally is said for people that have passed away. Now, interesting enough, the Kaddish itself doesn't have any mention of deceased or dead people. It is an affirmation of our faith and an affirmation of the connection that we have to God. And the idea behind the Kaddish is that there are some people that have passed away that do not have the ability to be able to pray or to be able to do mitzvahs. And therefore we, as the living, take those that have passed on to heart. So we are doing the bidding of those that have passed away. So we are standing in the synagogue, and it is the deceased speaking through our mouths. The deceased can't do the good deeds, can't do the mitzvahs. We can. So we do the affirmation of the faith for them. And it's only said for somebody that is in mourning. And only said for, and therefore traditionally, if the synagogue does not have any mourners, that prayer is not said. But today, every synagogue is in mourning over what's happening in Israel. And therefore, we said that prayer in our synagogue.
Do you know of any people that have got personal links over there who are suffering now? As I know that you have family in Israel, and of course your wife has family in Israel. And Rami Sherman, who visited us just recently too. Like, I actually haven't heard from him. I got to be honest, I'm kind of nervous. It's like, I don't know what happened to the good major.
It is. It's very scary. Everybody that's here has got some connection. Just to name a few that I can think on the top of my head.
The people in the armed services, everyone's been called up over there. People who have lost people.
Absolutely. But you remember most recently we had a bar mitzvah here. So one of the ladies here, her three boys, and one of them had bar mitzvah. Her name is Tammy. She's a beautiful neshama here, beautiful soul. Her first cousin lives on one of the kibbutzes that was attacked. A family of 5. The father of that family was shot. They don't know any more details other than he was shot. They don't know if he's there. I don't know if they found the body or if he's alive. They just know he was shot. The mother, with 2 girls, was taken on a motorbike to be brought back into Gaza. The terrorists took another motorbike and took a 12-year-old boy, Eitan, in the other motorbike. Just before they got to the border of Gaza, the mother found a blind spot in the positioning behind the motorbikes. Now imagine the turmoil she had to go through in this decision. It's like Sophie's choice. It was literally choosing to jump off the motorbike, holding her 2 daughters, at incredible risk to herself, and then to run off, and then left with the unimaginable pain of knowing that her 12-year-old is by himself with the terrorists. Or to stay and risk the incredible harm that's going to happen to the 2 daughters that she had on the motorbike. She jumped off and took the 2 girls and ran. For 10 kilometers she ran until she was able to find somebody else that could protect her. Her 12-year-old is now still in captivity. First cousin of Tammy in our community. We have girls in our community who are serving on the front line who don't have a base to go back to. Their parents, you know well, I'm not going to say out of the privacy of them, but they're serving on the front line. Their base was overrun. They don't have a base to go back to, and the girl has lost comrades, has lost friends, some killed, some taken as hostages. Everybody in the community is affected. It doesn't matter who you are, because everybody knows somebody, and even if you don't, they're all our brethren. Everybody is affected in incredible ways, and it's very painful for everybody.
I was talking to those people, and we won't name them for obvious reasons. And I said to one of the parents, I said, you must be both like really scared because of what's happening over there, but also really proud that your child is out there defending what she believes in. And she was so bitty. She goes, "Well, Matt, that's what it's like to be Jewish. You're both you're kind of scared and proud at the same time, all the time."
That's it.
All right, mate. Well, that's I just wanted to get your perspective and bring it to the good people of Northern Vibe. So thanks very much for that.
My pleasure, all the time.
And it's always fantastic to hear and see from Ari. Our thoughts and prayers, and for me, quite literally, my prayers go with all the people who are suffering over there in the Middle East. It's genuinely terrible, and God willing, this will be sorted out quickly. That's obviously this wasn't the planned one. The excellent lineup of interviews that I've got will be shown. And if you have anyone that should be coming on Northern Vibe, you want to nominate someone for Northern Vibe, or you want to come on Northern Vibe, make sure you get in contact with me. But other than that, I'll see you all next week.